In this video, we're going to show you how to install the wheel hub on your Nissan Versa, located on the left front side of your vehicle. The process for this is the same as the right front. Using a pry tool, you want to go ahead and remove our hubcap here. Go between the wheel and the cap and gently pry out. Work your way around. Pop that off and set it aside. Once you have that off, you can use a 22mm socket with your impact gun. Loosen and remove the lug nuts. Once you have the lug nuts removed, remove the wheel and set it aside. Now that we have our wheel off, I want to go ahead and focus on the axle nut here. There's a cotter pin. You want to go ahead and use your pliers, cutters, whatever you have. I'm going to bend out the cotter pin here. Now, cotter pins are a one-time use, so you definitely want to make sure you can source one of these here. Go ahead and discard that. I'm going to go ahead and remove our axle nut. This is a 30mm. Loosen and remove this axle nut. Set that aside. I'm going to go ahead and grab this wheel, rotate it. We're going to focus on the back side. I want to go ahead and remove our brake caliper and bracket assembly. On the back side of the caliper, we have our caliper bracket. There are two 17mm bolts securing the bracket and the caliper. Let's go ahead and loosen these here. Now the bottom one, I'm just going to go ahead and zip this right out. Go ahead and spin that out. With that bolt removed, the next thing you want to do is you want to go ahead and grab your hook or securing strap or something like that. Once we remove the 17mm bolt up here, we have a heavy component, the caliper bracket and caliper. We need to secure that. We're going to hang this off of our strut up top. Let's see if we can get to this bolt up here. Add an extension onto that so that we can get some throw on that. I'm going to spin this bolt out. Now don't let this drop. You're going to grab your hook, slide this off. Let's go ahead and run this through. And we're just going to hang this off of the strut spring, like so. Now at this point, we can grab our brake rotor. I'm going to slide that off. Now holding our wheel hub to the knuckle is going to be 3 bolts. This is the pattern right here. This is the back of our new wheel hub. It's 2 on the bottom, 1 on the top, and it's positioned like so. So we want to go ahead and we're going to locate those 3 bolts on the bottom. Before we undo those there, we want to go ahead and remove our ABS speed sensor on the other side. Now at this point, I want to go ahead and rotate the wheel the other way. It's a little bit easier if you can grab the other wheel because the tire is still mounted. Just grab that, rotate that like so. You want to gain access to the back side of that wheel hub. Now that we have our wheel turned, it's going to give us access to our ABS wire that goes into the sensor right here. There's a 10mm bolt securing that in place. Now we did spray this down with some rust penetrant. Sometimes these sensors stick in the back side of the knuckle and sometimes they can break. So you want to be careful when doing this job. Take your socket, your ratchet, spin that bolt out. I'm going to grab a pair of pliers here, and you want to gently twist this back and forth. Spray as much rust penetrant or lubrication in there that you want. That'll kind of break that free. And then your end goal is to go ahead and slide this out like so. I'm going to clean this here and just let that set to the side. And we're going to go into the top side here with our 17mm socket and extension. I'm going to get onto that bolt, and we did spray these down with some rust penetrant as well. Now, I'm not going to remove this all the way yet. I'm going to go ahead and loosen the two bottom ones. So we're just going to go down underneath here. Let's loosen this one here. And then what we'll have to do is rotate this back. It'll be easier to grab the other wheel on the other side and rotate this. That's going to allow us access to the other bolt. It's going to allow us access to the third bolt over here. As you can see inside here, I did not remove the 3 bolts all the way. They're probably about maybe a third of the way into the wheel hub flange. There's a reason for that. What we're going to try and do is we're going to use a hammer to hit around the flange here to try and work that wheel hub out. If it doesn't come out of the knuckle, we'll then go ahead and put the socket and the extension on the back side, and we'll tap on that. The bolt will then push the wheel hub out of the knuckle, and we'll do that with all 3 bolts to evenly push the hub out. We're going to go ahead and use our hammer, and we're going to hit the flange, and we're going to try and work this hub out of the knuckle. And it's slowly working its way. You can see the gap between the brake dust shield and the hub. Now the backing plate, you can see I tweaked it a little bit. But it is adjustable, it's bendable, so just bend that back. Now, if you want, you can put the axle nut back on the end here, just a few threads. That's simply going to catch that wheel hub from shooting off and, well, possibly injuring yourself. That wheel hub is pretty loose. Let's go ahead and remove those bolts the rest of the way out of the back of the knuckle. Okay, third bolt is out. Let's go ahead and give this a few more taps. Go ahead and remove that axle nut. Slide that off. We do want to go ahead and work that backing plate off. Just a little bit rusty, so we'll just tap that off. Before we install our wheel hub, we want to go ahead and pay attention to the inside surface of the knuckle itself. We want that wheel hub to slide in there nice. We have a little bit of rust buildup in there, so we're going to use our tool here just to clean the inside. You can use some 80 grit sandpaper and kind of go in there with your hand, clean that out. On the front side, make sure the surface is clean. Once that's cleaned up, go ahead and use some spray solvent. Give that a good cleaning. Our next step, apply some grease to the splines on our axle here. We want to take our backing plate, You can see the outline on our backing plate of where the wheel hub was set before. Just go ahead and line this up. Work the axle through the wheel hub. I'm going to go ahead and feed our upper bolt through the knuckle, through the backing plate, and try and get that lined up. Now I'm going to try and thread that in by hand. A few threads. If it's easier, you can use a socket and extension. Feed that in. Now remember, get it started by hand first. Do not use power tools. If you cross thread this, you just made a lot more work for yourself. Once you get that one started, I'm going to do the same for the other two. I'm going to use my mallet and I'm going to kind of work this in a little bit and get that third bolt started on that bottom side. Now that we have all three of them in, we can go ahead and start to evenly tighten them. A few threads here, a few here, here, until it sucks that wheel hub in flush with the knuckle. And just rotate your way around all three of these bolts. Continue this process until the wheel hub is flush with that knuckle. All three bolts are snugged down. Backing plate is on in the correct position. There's no gap here. Let's now go ahead and torque down the three hub bolts. And grab our knuckle and I'm going to turn this. It's going to give us a little better access to the back side so we can torque these down. Let's torque down our hub bolts here to 65 foot-pounds. And I'm going to rotate this back a little bit. Get to that other bolt on the back, or on the other side on the bottom here. All right, at this point here, we're going to thread on our axle nut. Now I want to go ahead and install our ABS sensor on the back side. I want to go ahead and grab that passenger side wheel, rotate that out a little bit more. It's going to give us better access and easier access to that. Let's go ahead and do that. Install our ABS sensor. Get our bolt in there. I'm going to go ahead and start that by hand. I like to thread those in as far as I can. Now once that bolt bottoms out, just give it a little bit more, just snug it down into place. We can now go ahead and straighten out our wheel. You can grab that hub face there and try and do that, or simply grab that passenger side tire and spin that. So much easier doing it that way. Now we want to go ahead and torque down our axle nut. Grab a couple lug nuts. Thread these down. Now we want to go ahead and torque down our axle nut. This needs to get torqued to 83 foot-pounds. And we're going to use the lug nuts here to protect the threads. And let's go ahead and torque this. Remove the lug nuts. Set those aside, and we're going to go ahead and install our cotter pin now. Make sure you source a new cotter pin. Do not use the old one. Feed that up and in. I'm going to bend this over and then cut off the excess. I'm going to spray a little bit anti-seize compound on the face of the hub. I'm going to install our brake rotor. Now let's go ahead and bring our brake caliper and bracket down into place. Now I'm going to grab that passenger side tire and I'm going to crank this over. That's going to allow us to go ahead and grab that caliper and bracket, lower that down into place. Going to unhook our supporting hook. I'm going to take one of our bolts. I'm going to get the upper one started. So we have the upper bolt started, several threads. Get that lower bolt started. You're probably going to have to grab that caliper and bracket and kind of wiggle that around, get that to line up. Make sure that's in several threads. Let's go ahead and tighten those down. Just going to repeat for the bottom, snug that right down. Torque down our caliper bracket bolts to knuckle to 62 foot-pounds. Do the same for the bottom. And we're going to straighten out our wheel. At this point here, we can go ahead and install the front tire and torque that down. Let's go ahead and install your wheel. Install the lug nuts. We're going to get all four of them started by hand. Spin those on a few threads. By doing this here and not just zipping them on with the impact gun will prevent cross-threading of the threads. With all four of them started, let's go ahead and snug them down. Let's torque down a lug nuts to 83 foot-pounds. Now, if you're installing your center cap or hub cap here, you want to go ahead and go around the perimeter and locate the notch for the valve stem. Locate the valve stem on the wheel. Line that up first. Once that's lined up, go ahead and gently work your way around the perimeter, locking this on. Once that's all set, you are done.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.